Okay, great. So I want to talk about alpha channels, and I want to talk about how to make your alpha channels properly for translucent materials. Now, this isn't something that's unique to UDK. This is more of a general effects and image format thing, but it definitely applies to us, and it's something that I think every effects artist needs to know. So let's go ahead and illustrate what the problem is first so we can talk about how to address it. So I've got this texture that I want to bring inside of UDK, and it's just an orb. You know, it starts off blue, it gets a little more cyan in the center, and we've got like a really nice soft blurred edge going around the entire orb. So I would create an alpha channel. The way I do it is I just control click on the layer itself, and it's going to select our transparency values. I'll do a new channel here in the channels box on the bottom corner of my screen, and with this selection still active, I'm going to hit Control Backspace. Control Backspace is going to fill whatever our background color is, which I have to set to white right now. So I'm going to deselect that. And then we know that we can't have totally solid transparent values inside of Photoshop. So we're going to go ahead and do a new solid color. We'll just leave that white and then put that behind our orb. So I've already got this saved and brought into Unreal. And we can see inside of Cascade what the problem is. If I pause it, all of these orbs have like a really nasty white edge that's kind of encompassing the orb itself. And what's happening is, if we go inside of Photoshop, our alpha channel starts to knock out the blurred edge right here, going from white and then to shades of gray to black. While that's happening in the exact same image space, we're starting to get the white values that are behind this orb, right? So as it's fading out, it's getting brighter, and we see that nastiness. So a quick solution for a case like this is to just go ahead and change your background color to fill more closely, right, to what the edge of the orb is. So if I do that, I double click on my solid and then just color pick right there. And boom, we get like a really nice matte that's going to be unmultiplied against our alpha. So if I go ahead and save that as a TGA, I'm just going to call it orb.tga, make sure 32 bits per pixel selected, and then go back into Unreal, re-import this texture. And now you can see inside of Cascade, all of our orbs are displaying and rendering properly, just as we'd expect. So that problem is solved. That's an easy way to fix something like that. But let's go ahead and throw a wrench in all of that. Let's use an example like this little piece of quartz I found. I found this, I think, in the Science Image Library, I think it's called. And I just went ahead and made my own mask for it, and I did some, different things with layers and so forth. And a case like this, right, wouldn't really work with the solid color that we were talking about. You could try to paint, all these different purples and blues and ambers and try to match it. And that's fine, but that's incredibly wasteful for time. We want to be able to do this more automatically. So there's two ways to do it. The quicker way, I'm going to say quicker with quotes, is to take it inside of After Effects, because we can actually do what's called an unmatted alpha. So if I go into After Effects, I'm going to go ahead and import this quartz.psd. If you're using PSDs, what you want to make sure is import kind is set to footage and then merge layers. And then this just imports it as one file. So we're going to go ahead and drop this into our timeline. It's going to make a new composition for us. And Photoshop understands transparency a lot better than something like a Targa. Photoshop supports something called per pixel transparency, where there's actually an additional piece of alpha information built in. So there's really no separate alpha channel, if you will. And what it does is it has what's called an unmatted or a straight RGB channel set. So to preview that, there's this little hidden feature here. If you go inside your preview window and go to RGB straight, you can actually see the red, green, and blue channels composited with straight values before the alpha or the per pixel transparency knocks it out. And you see all sorts of weird, what looks like really bad edges. But what happens is the alpha channel knocks that out properly, and you don't see all these like weird, like hot reds and blacks and blues and so forth. So to save this, to bring it inside of UDK, we would just go ahead and render it. So I'm going to hit Control, Shift, and /, and that adds my composition to the render queue. I'm going to go to render settings really quick. I just want this to start and end at 0, so it only renders one frame. And then for the output module, I'm going to save this as a TGA or a Targa sequence. For channels, I want RGB plus alpha. Remember, we need transparency. We'll leave depth alone. And then right here, here's our little secret. For color, we want it to be straight. We don't want to matte it or pre-multiply it against our alpha channel. We want to leave it alone. So we're going to change that. Go to Format Options, make sure that 32 bits per pixel is checked, because it won't save an alpha without that. Excuse me. We'll go ahead and hit OK on both of those. and then make sure this is rendering in the same area. Yeah. And then render. So let's go into Unreal. And I've already got this imported right here. Let's go inside of our material that I've made really quick with our texture selected. Let's just change this texture sample to use our quartz. And right away you can see that it's perfect. Now this little white thing right here, I added that. Those are just kind of light streaks. Those aren't any kind of compression errors or anything. But you can see that the alpha channel is knocking everything out perfectly. We don't see any funny colors going multiplied against it. So we'll go ahead and compile that material. Let's go ahead and look at Cascade really quick. And we can see that all of these, although it's kind of a weird particle system, they render properly. This is exactly what we expect. So you're probably saying, well, that's kind of cumbersome. I don't want to use After Effects in my pipeline every time I want to save an image, because sometimes you save an image over and over just in an hour because you're making iterations on it. And that's perfectly valid. I feel the same way. So there is a way to do this inside of Photoshop, but it's a lot more manual. However, we can use actions to our advantage so that we only have to set this up once, and then we can just run the action. It's going to do everything in under a second for us. Excuse me. So let's go ahead and talk about actions really quick. To see the actions, you can hit this little play button right here, or if you don't see that, just go to Window, Actions. And you'll probably see these default Photoshop actions. We don't really care about those. I'm going to minimize this folder, and I'm going to create a new group for myself or a new set and just call this VFX. And now we have a new group that we can, hopefully you'll get into the habit of using actions, and you can keep adding new actions into this group that you know that are your own. So to make a new one, what we're going to do is we're going to hit this little new button right here. For name, we're going to call it Make Alpha. Set, we'll just leave in VFX, and then for function key, we can map this to the keyboard so that all we have to do is hit something like F2, and it's going to go ahead and do this automatically for us. So I'm going to set it to F2, and I'm going to do Shift and Control. So you have to hit Shift and Control at the same time to activate this. So we'll go ahead and hit record. And right now, anything I'm doing is being recorded. And we know that because we can see this little red button is depressed right there. And it's if I do, let's say Control A, you can see that set selection is added to our list of actions. So it's recording everything I do so it can be played back later. So Control A does select all. That's actually the first thing I do want it to do. So we're selecting all of our image. We're going to go ahead and hit Control, Shift, and C, which is going to go and copy everything. It's going to copy all of these layers, not just the layer that's selected. So I screwed that up. Let's go ahead and stop this really quick because I was trying to close something else. I'm going to stop the action recording, and I want to delete these last two actions. I don't want to select next document or close. So we'll go ahead and hit record. So we left off at copying everything by hitting Control Shift C. We're going to hit Control N, which is a new document. And this is going to come and bite us in the ass later, but we're going to go ahead and fix this. But for now, these are non-power of 2 dimensions. So let's go ahead and just leave it as is. So just hit OK. Let's go ahead and hit Control V to paste. And then what we want to do is that same trick, Control select our pasted image, which is going to select our transparency values. And then we're going to go ahead and make a new alpha channel. And then this is important. Hit the letter D on your keyboard, which is going to set your colors to black and white, and then X to flip those because we want to make sure that white is our background color. And we go ahead and hit Control backspace, which is going to fill our alpha channel with white so we get our proper transparency going. So we'll hit Control D to deselect. I want to select my RGB channels now so I get out of alpha. And I want to delete this background layer that comes by default with the image. So now we can see our transparency as we noticed before. So now this step is kind of weird, but because we have to do it 11 times, and I'm going to explain what we did or what we're doing afterwards. But what we want to do is duplicate this layer. So I'm going to hold down Alt and drag up, and then select both and hit Control E. Control E is going to merge these into one layer. So I want to do this 11 times. I've done that once, so this is twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Okay, and I'm going to explain what we did there just in a second, but let's go ahead and finish this sequence up really quick so we can stop our actions. So with this done, all I need to do is give it a background. So we'll go ahead and do a new solid color. And I like to use just a neutral gray. I think that works best. So I do 127 on red, green, and blue. I'm going to set that behind everything. And then I'm going to go to layer and then flatten image. And now we have a flattened RGB image with a proper alpha channel. So now I'm going to go ahead and stop. And now we've got all these actions inside of our, or sequences as part of our actions, excuse me. And whenever we hit play, it's going to do all of these for us automatically. So let's go back really quick. You're probably wondering, why did we do that 11 times? Especially after I think 4 or 5 times, you don't see an image change. So what we're using is we're basically taking those transparent values and we're multiplying them against each other. And we're doing this exponentially. So let's use an example. Let's say in this part right here of the gemstone, there was a value that's close to like 12% transparency. So by duplicating the layer, the image on top of itself, it's now 24%, excuse me, because it's times 2. We have 2 layers and we merge them. We go ahead and do that again, and 24 is 48, right? And we do that again, and now we're close to 100, we're at 96. So that's what we're talking about exponentially. So doing that 11 times pretty much guarantees that anything that's like at 2% transparency will get picked up and turned into full 100% transparency. And just like before we saw in After Effects, we saw our straight RGB values. You see all those funky things going on around the edge. This is exactly what we want. That's normal. Okay, just had to find my Sonic the Hedgehog example that I had. But really quick, we're going to use this as a test. What we've got here is just an image I found off the internet that's just Sonic blurred going, horizontally left to right. And let's give it a shot. Let's do Control and Shift and F2 and watch our Photoshop action do its magic. And boom, it looks really good, except there is still one small problem, and we brought this up in the beginning of the video. If we look at our image dimensions, it is 227 by 248, right? That's a non-power of 2 texture. Unreal is not going to allow us to bring that in, right? So, no matter how close you are, in my experience, you'll always be 1 or 2 pixels off. Obviously, I'm wasting a lot in this image because it's a test. But even if it's 256 by 256, sometimes you'll get 255 or 254. So what we can do to help prevent this is go into our action, and in the 3rd step in our make alpha action, there's the make command we can see right here. And we want to click this little guy right here, which is the stop for the dialog window box. And what that's going to do is when we run our action now, we do Control Shift F2, it's going to stop here and it's going to say, hey, what do you want these dimensions to be? And right now we catch right away, hey, this is not 256 by 256 like my source. So I can go ahead and type that in, hit enter, and it's going to continue on with the rest of its actions. And boom, it's done. So let's go ahead and hit Control Shift S to save. Make sure that our format is Targa, and I'm just going to overwrite this Sonic one that I have from before. 32 bits per pixel, and then let's go into Unreal. In the browser, I'm going to go ahead and re-import. I'm sorry, I don't have this imported. I'm going to import our Sonic TGA. Just leave all this alone, and then inside our orb material, let's go ahead and with that selected, let's go ahead and apply this to our texture sample. It looks pretty good. It looks like a really good alpha, just like we'd expect. So we'll go ahead and compile and look inside of Cascade, and there we go. We can see Sonic the Hedgehog. He's all blurred and looking good. So that's how you make a proper alpha channel. Hopefully this was useful, and we hope to see you next time for our next tutorials.